My final thoughts for Bills versus Ravens, the injury update, and my 5 predictions for Sunday night are coming your way today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate you all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Well, folks, welcome in. It's time for our last conversation before the Buffalo Bills host the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, winner goes to the AFC Championship game. We got a lot to cover today. We'll close with my 5 predictions for Sunday night. We'll talk to Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills about the injuries. Obviously, Ray Davis, Alec Anderson, the players of note there. But I want to start by giving you my final thoughts on the game. And a lot of my final thoughts are rooted in legacy. And I want to start by just admiring the playoff resume that Josh Allen is building. It's unbelievable. It's an all-time great playoff resume. Among quarterbacks that have started at least 5 games in the postseason, Josh Allen, your quarterback, is number 1 in yards per game. He's number 1 in touchdowns per game. He's number 1 in touchdown to interception ratio. He has the lowest interception percentage among quarterbacks with 10 or more starts. He has the most games with a passer rating of 135 or better. He's the NFL's all-time leading rusher among quarterbacks in the playoffs. The resume is off the charts. And there's a huge opportunity here to go up against another top quarterback in Lamar Jackson and win and go to the AFC Championship game. There's a lot riding on this game in terms of legacy. But I'd like to remind you that for as much as we live in this moment right now and we acknowledge what's at stake right now for both of these great quarterbacks, this game happened in 2020. The exact same thing. The Bills host the Ravens, divisional round, winner goes to the AFC Championship game. The Bills won the game 17-3. But we sit here today discussing that this is a legacy game for both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. But it already happened. What's missing? You know what's missing. A Super Bowl appearance, and of course, a Super Bowl win. So this is a big one, folks. It's a big one for Josh Allen. It's a big one for Lamar Jackson. A lot of the narratives that exist around Josh Allen apply to Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. This great quarterback, these great teams. What do you have to show for it? It's a lot of cool stats. But you got to go further. And so for as much as this one matters a ton, you got to get to the next one, and you got to win the next one. I've enjoyed this playoff success immensely. And I don't take any of it for granted. But you don't have the breakthrough until you have the breakthrough. And someone's going to win this game, and the narratives are going to be all kinds of crazy for the one that doesn't. I remind you this game happened in 2020, and we sit here today having the same conversation. You got to win the next one. Now you got to win this one to get to the next one. But those stats, they're great. We love them, but they feel empty, right? They feel empty. You don't have the breakthrough until you have the breakthrough. Someone's going to have a breakthrough, but it'll be empty if they don't win next week. Take care of this one. Because Josh Allen's too special of a player, and quite frankly, Lamar Jackson's too special of a player to have not been to the Super Bowl yet in their career. There's a lot of years left for both of these great players. But there's obviously a lot riding on this one. To which I'd like to remind you and encourage you, I'm not going to tell you how to fan. You fan however you want to. But take a moment and just appreciate and enjoy these great players. Josh Allen. These are the moments we've dreamed about. High-stakes playoff games at Highmark Stadium with a quarterback like Josh Allen. It's the peak of fandom, at least in my lifetime. And it's stressful, but I'd encourage you to not waste your time trying to poke holes in other great players and teams. For as much as I'm excited about this game, two great quarterbacks, two great football teams, the conversation's been so bad. So bad. So many matchups you can discuss. So many opportunities. How good the units are, where they're strong, where they're weak, what opportunities each great player has against another great team. And instead, there's so much time and attention and effort given to trying to diminish the other side of the equation. Why? It's a divisional round. The sooner I believe that you can appreciate great competition and great competitors and stop trying to poke holes in them and their teams, I think the more you can enjoy what's going on. And some of the big media coverage just can't help themselves, and it certainly pours into just regular conversations that people have on social media. I'm not falling for it. I'm going to enjoy two great quarterbacks playing in a high-stakes game as they try to build out their Hall of Fame legacies. And there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. But don't let that take away from the greatness that we are experiencing right now. Enjoy it, folks. Enjoy it. Weather's going to be a big part of this game. It's going to be cold. Cold. Looking at some weather reports before recording here on Friday afternoon. Looking like the temperature's around 16 degrees. The feels like temperature about 8 degrees and going down as the game moves along. 50% chance of snow at about 7 o'clock. Thought is that it could be around an inch of accumulation. Winds between 5 and 15 miles per hour. Cold. And Lamar Jackson is a Florida native that has openly discussed how much he hates playing in the cold. Now, I'm not sure anybody loves it, but it's another thing to come out and discuss how much you don't enjoy it. And he also has said that he's, not going to let it get in the way of, going out and executing, being the player he's supposed to be. So he's certainly said all the right things in that capacity, but hasn't shied him away from discussing how much he doesn't appreciate the cold weather. And the Ravens made an interesting choice this week to only practice outside on Friday. Temperature in Baltimore on Friday is about between 40 and 43 degrees. It's going to be about 40 degrees less than that on Sunday afternoon. You'd like to think that could be a notable advantage for the Buffalo Bills. Now, look, I'm sure that the Derrick Henry factor in a cold weather game like that certainly is something to be mindful of. And that'll be a big challenge for the Bills. And there's going to be a battle of attrition. But the Bills have certainly been in these moments. They, listening to Patrick Hammer, he's kind of comparing this to the game the Bills played in the wild card round against the Patriots a few years ago. And obviously that didn't stop the Buffalo Bills from having the perfect game on offense, 7 possessions, 7 touchdowns. They've been to this, they've been in these environments before. This will be by far the coldest game that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens have ever played in. So it should be exciting. And quite honestly, Sunday night can't get here long enough. It's been an exhausting buildup. And this game always felt inevitable, right? Like you kind of saw the standings and how it was stacking up, and you're like, yeah, the Bills and Ravens are playing in the divisional round. That's going to happen. And here it is. we're just ready for this game to happen and to enjoy it, and then hopefully spend all week celebrating a win and getting ready for an AFC Championship game. All right, coming up next, Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills about the injuries. Then later on, my 5 predictions for Sunday. Folks, be sure to stick with me. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. Whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. I've been playing for a while now, having a blast. It's easy to use, and I love how fast the payouts are. Seriously, I've gotten paid out in as little as 15 minutes when my picks hit, plus the weekly promos like Taco Tuesday discounts add even more value to my lineups. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use our code LOCKEDONNFL. That'll get you $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. I'm joined now by Kyle Trimble. He's a doctor of physical therapy. He runs bangedupbills.com. You can follow him on Twitter at bangedupbills. He joins us each week ahead of the Bills game to get us ready from an injury perspective, and the Bills enter this one looking pretty good. Only one player with an injury designation, only 2 players that didn't practice in full every single day this week. So let's get into it. We'll start with Ray Davis, concussion. We know what happened against Denver. Limited in practice all week, listed as questionable for the game. Concussions are tricky. I'm interested in what you have to say on this one.
It's up in the air. I mean, we saw that he was practicing on Wednesday as a limited participant, which was mildly surprising given that sometimes we see guys start off as do not participate and then work their way up and then ultimately miss the next game. So the fact that he was limited, and then we had Chris Brown from the Bills had stated that he was likely in stage 4 because he was able to see them move around on Wednesday, whereas the rest of the beat reporters did not observe them on Wednesday. So that was positive to see on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we saw him in the red non-contact jersey. He was running around. I didn't see any limitations. Like, he was doing everything, normal, and it looked like he was having fun. So that was another positive sign. And then Friday, they were in the stadium. He was once again running around, doing all the different stuff. He does have the Guardian cap on, which we've seen more players start to wear coming off concussion. We've seen Taylor Rapp play with that all year after his concussion. It's going to come down to if he gets cleared on Saturday. Before the show, I was looking at the injury report just to try to get a sense of what patterns we see there. And there's not really a great pattern. We've seen anywhere from, guys being limited all week, as we saw Ty Johnson last year with a concussion, and he ended up playing with no designation. We've seen guys come in with limited practices all week and have a questionable designation in play, such as Teron Johnson. And we've seen guys be limited all week and be questionable and ruled out, such as Dalton Kincaid last year. So there's no real rhyme or reason to, how they go through things. Each concussion is unique. So we have to wait to see when Ray Davis gets cleared by the independent neurologist. That will come on Saturday because they'll probably do a walkthrough and then have him go get assessed by the neurologist. They have a good idea whether he's going to play or not based on how he's progressing. Of course, he's supposed to be cleared, and that's independent of everything. So when we see the practice elevations or the practice squad elevations come up, I expect to see Frank Gore be elevated just in case maybe Ray Davis does have some type of symptoms on Sunday, if he is cleared or not, or there might be other reasons why they do other practice squad elevations. So it's a coin toss. I think he plays based off how he's moving around and how we've seen guys progress through. But I would not be surprised if they say, hey, you're not ready, because they do the screen. This is his first concussion, so we don't even have any context to see how much time he's missed in previous instances. So I wish I had more of a clear answer, but there's been too many instances where we've seen it go both ways, and we have to wait for the neurologists to do their job.
Yeah, and that's just, he's going to get cleared by an independent neurologist or not. And I'm glad that you mentioned the dynamics of elevating Frank Gore from the practice squad. Even if that happens on Saturday, it really could just be more of a hedge, which we've seen the Bills do. I think both of the call-ups last week were very much that. Hey, we're kind of shaky on some guys. Let's go ahead and elevate. And if we need them, we need them. If not, they'll be inactive and they get the full game check. So you can read into it, but it's not necessarily the full indicator. And we'll obviously find out 90 minutes before kickoff, and certainly hope Ray Davis can go. I think he matters a lot for the closer role that he kind of fills alongside with Ty Johnson later in games. He's been a good receiving back, and so hopefully he's good to go. A player that presumably is good to go is Alec Anderson, the Bills' reserve offensive lineman. That is the big tight end, that sixth offensive lineman that the Bills love to deploy. Feels like the whole NFL world found out like last week against Denver that it happens, but it's been happening for like the last several years. So welcome to what's going on with the Bills, those of you who tuned in finally for a playoff game. But obviously he matters a ton, had the calf injury, finished the game, and then was limited in practice Wednesday and Thursday, a full participant on Friday. It feels like he's going to go, but my question really stems from, is there anything that we should be concerned about with how effective he would be? I mean, you're talking about offensive line, rooted yourself into the ground, pushing people out of the way. Your calf muscle feels important for that.
It is. And we've seen a lot of calf injuries, more or less on the defensive line. We've seen some on the offensive line, but mostly on the defensive line. And more often than not, they're missing the next game. The research I've done is showing it's about 50-50 split on whether guys miss the next game. It comes down to position specific. There's in some instances where guys are on there for a mild calf injury and they're able to play through that. And other times it's like, hey, you just need to give that time off so it's not going to be lingering. And of course, we've seen that with some other positions, like we saw with Balin Spector, who continues to have calf injuries and he's on injury reserve. So the fact that he has him at designation, which is great, he's going to play. Given that the offensive linemen, they have more leeway with what they need to do, because yes, while they are pushing forward and they're pushing with their calves, they are having to step backwards and kind of anchor in. So like, yes, you use all those muscles, but you use them in a different way and you can kind of get away with more hamstring and calf injuries. Like we saw with Deion Dawkins with his hamstring, he's able to play through that. So it looked pretty mild. He stepped funny late in the second quarter and kind of limped off and then came back with, I assume was a wrap on the calf, and then they finished the game. But then you worry about the calf tightening up, just that swelling, the pain, everything else comes with that. But on Thursday, he was moving around, and you wouldn't have known anything was wrong with him unless you saw the tape on the back of his left calf, which signified the side that he had been injured. So with the cold, with maybe the poor footing, there's a chance to injure him, get another re-injury. But I know that they've had Tyler Grable working through as a backup with that. They've had Ryan Vandermark as a possibility, a jumbo tight end. Alec Anderson's important, but I feel like if he's out for any reason because of injury, I feel like he's more replaceable than a starting offensive lineman. So, we'll see what happens with that. Maybe he's just there as an emergency role too, but the fact he's on a designation indicates that he should be playing pretty close to his full level without hopefully any drop off in performance.
Baltimore enters this game very, very healthy as well. Their player of consequence is Zay Flowers, their number one receiver. Had 44 more targets than anyone else on the team. Pro Bowler, voted a Pro Bowler, 1,000 yards. I mean, a really good player. He missed last week with a knee injury that he sustained in week 18. He didn't practice all week long. And Coach Harbaugh, of course, said he thinks there's a chance. What can you gather on this Zay Flowers situation?
The only thing that we saw him or heard that he was doing was he did a workout prior to practice. From according to the Ravens beat reporters, he was wearing a brace on the knee. That's going to be necessary for the stability. Just keep in mind, he's injured the LCL, which is the outside portion of the ligament. So your MCL is an inside portion, and that's the most common knee injury with regards to sprains. So just look on the opposite side of the kneecap, and the LCL is on the outside. So it was a weird way how he injured it. It was unfortunate because he would have been fine if his leg didn't hit his teammates as he was getting hit by the Browns defender. But it just is what it is with that. But even if he does try to play, he's going to wear a knee brace for the stability. He's not going to have any really explosion off of that right leg. He's not going to really be able to jump. He's not going to be able to cut off to the left very effectively. He's going to be a decoy more than anything, maybe some short, get to the point, catch, and then go down. There's not going to be a yards after the catch. So if he does play, I'll be shocked, because if he's not practicing, he shouldn't be playing. But we've seen guys do not participate all week and then play. So I don't think he plays just because of how everything's progressing. And apparently Harbaugh has some tells that he kind of starts dancing around stuff. So my buddy Dr. Chow had said that he didn't think he'd be ready either until maybe next week if they make it that far, which we hope that they don't. So either way, if Flowers plays, I wouldn't expect a lot for him. We have some good comparables in that Traylon Burks did this 2 years ago, and he was very ineffective the first game back. And the other one I could find was Robert Griffin III. He missed one game coming off his, and then he tore up his knee in the playoffs, which I think everybody remembers back in 2012. So if he does try to play through it, there's a high risk for re-injury. I don't think they do that with him being a Pro Bowler, the young player, all this stuff with that. So this shape up well to be a Bills game, that you're losing a top wide receiver for the Ravens, and we have hopefully everybody coming back healthy, and just who makes less mistakes.
All right, there it is. Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills. Appreciate you coming on, sharing your expertise. Let's do it again next week.
Absolutely. Go Bills.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you are going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching you with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, folks, it is prediction time here on the podcast. Before I get there, I would love to extend a quick invitation to you to join the Locked On Bills subtext community. Watch the game with me. Whenever you're a member of the subtext community, you get texts from me during the game. Pretty much after every single series, I send out what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. It'll be fun. Watch Bills Ravens with me through your text messages. You also get the all 22 review file. So after every Bills game, I spend the next day in the tape. And when I'm done, I send out a file to everyone that's in the subtext so you can watch me breaking down the biggest plays of the game, usually between 30 minutes and 50 minutes of just analysis, breaking down the video. So that's really cool. Plus, you get my text throughout the week. My first reaction to all Bills news. I'll keep you updated. You don't have to scroll social media or anything like that. As the news happens, I'll send it right to your phone with my initial thoughts, and you get into our Discord channel. We've got 1,500 Bills fans in the Herd Mentality Discord channel where we do a lot. We've got a fantasy football league. We got a book club. We talk Bills, Sabres, life, cooking, all kinds of stuff. We do a Wednesday hangout where I go on there for like an hour and take questions and just have a good time. So come be part of what we have going on. There's a link in today's show notes if you'd like to be part of the subtext community, and you get all that stuff. Again, link in today's show notes and everyday's show notes. All right, prediction time. I got 5 of them for you. Here we go. Number 1. And remember, with my predictions, I always try to tell a bit of a story on not only things that I think will happen, but how that will impact the flow of the game. So number 1, I am predicting that Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman combine for 100 receiving yards. I think this is a good matchup for them, particularly against Brandon Stevens. Heard a lot about Brandon Stevens, I'm sure, this week if you followed pretty much anyone who talks about the game. He's the guy. He's the guy that you go after that's been prone to giving up big plays this season. He struggles with ball skills. And so you get some one-on-one opportunities against this guy, you got to challenge it. On the other side, it's Nate Wiggins. I like Nate Wiggins a lot. Rookie out of Clemson. He's still a rookie. It's a big stage for him. I wouldn't be afraid to test it. And then sometimes they bring in Tre'Davious White, who respectfully has been terrible this year. Started off with the Rams. They let him go. He goes to the Ravens, and he plays situationally. And those are matchups that I have high expectations for Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman to win. So the thing about predicting the Bills in receiving production is that it isn't everybody eats offense. It's difficult to really say, hey, this one guy will have 100 yards. But I think the point being is last week, as I said repeatedly, not a great matchup for the Bills outside receivers. Different story this week, and I think you'll see Cooper and Coleman be involved and combined for 100 receiving yards. Number 2, I am going to predict 100 rushing yards for the Bills offense. Now, maybe that doesn't feel like an overly aggressive prediction. Well, Baltimore's only given up 100 rushing yards this season 5 times. That's it. But the Bills, when they had somewhat of a pulse in the game against Baltimore, they ran the ball okay. And you have the layer of Josh Allen and what the appetite is there for the Bills to unleash him on the ground in the playoffs, especially in a game like this. I think the Bills will have a decent day running the ball against what has been a really, really good Baltimore Ravens run defense. Their ability to attack the edges, I think, is going to matter. You know, all those ancillary blockers that you hear me talk about, and Alec Anderson and Reggie Gilliam and Matt Collins, even Khalil Shakir, those guys, you got pullers and, your tackles getting play side. I think they're going to be able to create some stress and get some production running the ball. Now, I don't know if last week I predicted 150 yards against Denver. I don't know if the Bills will get there, but I think they'll go north of 100. Number 3, I'm predicting 350 yards of total offense for the Bills against Baltimore. And that's not really been happening against Baltimore. They've only given up more than 350 yards once in their last 10 games. When the Bills played them in week 4, the Bills had 236 yards of offense. And it's not that I don't respect Baltimore's defense. I do. I think they've made some great lineup adjustments, benching Trenton Simpson, benching the safety next to Kyle Hamilton, bringing in Ardarius Washington, bringing in Malik Harrison. They've worked on their cornerback alignments as well. They've done a lot to make their defense better. I don't think they're going to wrap up this Bills offense. I think that's what's kind of lost in this is the Bills are a really good freaking offense. In fact, they score more points per game than Baltimore this year. I don't think this is going to be an under wrap situation for the Bills offense. Put me down for 350 rushing yards or more. Number 4, the over-under for this game, according to FanDuel, is set at 51.5 points. I'm going with the over here. I think you have two of the best scoring offenses in football, right? This is, I think, 2 and 3 in scoring this season. And I think there's enough questions about both defenses. Obviously, we've discussed at length the concerns that Buffalo has in the postseason, but also matching up against Baltimore. And then also the Ravens, for as secure as they've become, I don't think they've been challenged like a offense that Buffalo has during this kind of uptick defensively for them. And they're still kind of susceptible to giving up some bigger plays, some explosive plays. I think the Bills will be able to move the ball and score some points. So 51.5, I mean, you need both teams would have to be well under their season averages for this to happen. I think both teams are going to get to the upper 20s into the 30s. I think that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting like a 31-28 game, something like that, where, sometimes I go into these games like in the early Allen Mahomes games, they would always predict the scoring to be really high, and then it's like a 24-20 game, and I kind of felt that. I feel like this one, though, is different where, again, I think both teams push for 30 points, and somebody might hit 30 points, and I think if you're the first team to 30 points, you'll probably win the game. And now the moment you're waiting for, am I going to predict the Bills to win or to lose? Do you think that I got on this podcast today with a Buffalo versus the World t-shirt from 26 Shirts and this bison, this Bills emblem with the icicles on it to tell you that I think the Bills lose this game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am predicting a Bills win in this one. I absolutely recognize the script for Baltimore. I recognize the challenge ahead for Baltimore. But as this week moved along, I kind of gained optimism. I wouldn't say I gained confidence. I gained optimism for Buffalo in this game. I think it matters a ton that they're at home. I think it matters a ton that Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard and Taron Johnson and Taylor Rapp and a new defensive tackle rotation is going to be available for this game. Listening to this team talk this week, I like where they're at from a mindset perspective. I like that they lost that game. Like in hindsight, I think that could have been a great thing for this football team back in week 4. This is an opportunity for them to get some revenge and show the world, right, that they're not that team in week 4. And I said this week in the podcast, and I'd encourage you to do this. Go back and listen to my post-game reaction and the All-22 review podcast from week 4. It doesn't even sound like I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills team that we've been watching for the last several months. That game was in September. And yeah, Baltimore's made some adjustments as well. And I think one of the most interesting things that I didn't think about this week until Kevin Ostreicher said it on the crossover Thursday. When you think about what's different for the Bills and Ravens, on top of the lineup changes, it's just where both teams were at back in week 4. The Bills are riding high, 3-0. They smoked the Dolphins and the Jaguars. And back-to-back weeks, you're feeling good. That wasn't the case for Baltimore. They were 1-2. They couldn't fall to 1-3. So you had a team riding high versus a desperate team on a short week for Buffalo in Baltimore. The game got out of hand and the Bills were shorthanded. I'm not sure there's really much at all you can glean from that game other than it happened. And I think now that we're here today, that result probably favors the Bills. There's matchup challenges on both sides. There's a lot baked into this game. Baltimore certainly has a great chance to win this game. In fact, they're favorites. And that's something I'm sure Sean McDermott loves. You're the home team with Josh Allen as your quarterback, and you're the underdogs. Go do it. Go out there and do it. Got a little bit of confidence. Optimism is the word. I have some optimism about what Buffalo can get done in this game. So there you have it. Cooper, Coleman, over 100 yards receiving combined, 100 rushing yards for the Bills offense, 350 total yards for the Bills offense. The over hits, so 51.5 is the over, so 52 points or more. Put me down for a Bills dub. And with that, the hay is in the barn, folks. We've done all we can. Done all we can here on this podcast to get ready for this game. The only thing that's left to do is for the Bills to go out there and win it. And again, we'll get ready for the AFC Championship game. If the Chiefs win, Bills are going to Arrowhead. The Texans win, those boys are coming to Western New York. So go Texans, right? Go Texans. But whatever happens, I'll be happy that the Bills are in the AFC Championship game and look forward to get you ready for it. All right, folks, that's it for today. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.